Hello everybody and welcome to today's review of The Secrets We Keep. It is the new film directed by Yuval Adler starring Noomi Rapace, Joel Kinnaman, and Chris Messina. The film focuses on a couple living in the 1950s where the wife, played by Noomi, harbors a secret past in which she was actually raped in a concentration camp during World War II. The event was so traumatic for her that she has never told anyone about it, not even her own husband. And now years later, while playing with her son in the park, she sees a man that strikes her as very familiar. She follows him around, and then when she gets a good look at his face, she immediately assumes that this is the same German officer that raped her all those years ago. She believes that this man is living in America under a false identity with a wife and children and believes that he has no right to walk the streets free. So she takes it upon herself to kidnap him with an intention to kill him eventually, but not before she forces a confession out of him. However, the man claims to be innocent, so she takes him home and she and her husband, played by Chris Messina, keep him locked in their basement until they can verify his identity. I have a confession to make. I actually read the script to this movie years ago. The writer of the film, Ryan Covington, is actually a good friend of mine, and while he and I were working in the same movie theater in Hollywood, he was kind enough to let me read the script, and I read it, I liked it, and I was especially excited to see this film because this is the first film that he has ever written that has received a theatrical release. However, upon seeing the film, I have noticed that there were a lot of changes made to the original script. However, I'm going to remain as objective about this film review as I possibly can. So a few things that I liked about this movie. First of all, I like this whole Hitchcockian approach of mistaken identities. Maya wants to believe that this is the man that raped her all those years ago and really wants to get justice and revenge for what happened to her and to her sister in the concentration camps. However, her certainty is not all there. Her husband is even questioning her own sanity as the plot thickens. So the whole mystery behind this one man who may or may not be a Nazi living in disguise in America was very compelling. And I love how this one woman is trying to find some kind of peace or closure with her past by either choosing to take the path of forgiveness or the path of vengeance, neither of which is an easy road to take. Also, I love the cinematography in this film. This is a gorgeous film to look at. The whole cinematography actually kind of reminded me of Tom Stern's work in Gran Torino. It's very dark, very gritty, and sets up the tone appropriately for this film, which is a thriller. The score also helps it along too. So on a technical standpoint, this film is marvelous. However, two major things: pacing and believability. The editing in this film was all over the place. The movie starts out immediately with Maya making this impulsive decision to just kidnap this man without even thinking about the consequences of what this might do to her or to him or to her husband or to her own son. Usually in a story, the protagonist has some time to decide whether or not they want to take the path that is presented to them. It really didn't feel like there was any decision making involved at all. She just goes off and does it. And that to me was like the first flaw of the film. The journey just starts off way too soon. What happens in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the film should have happened within at least 30 minutes of the film. You gotta set up the first act appropriately, but it feels like we just jumped right into the second act as soon as the film starts. The action just went by so fast that we as the audience didn't really have enough time to take in what was happening, to digest and really try to make up our minds of where we are at with these characters. And to me, because Maya acted so impulsively, I really did not feel any sympathy towards her. In fact, I thought her actions made her look like a lunatic. I felt sorry for the man that she took hostage, and I don't think that was the intention of the filmmaker. And then going back to my second point about believability, a lot of the action that takes place during this movie really didn't make any sense to me. First of all, how the hell did she herself, a very petite young woman, get a big, robust man into the trunk of her car? How did she do that on her own? Also, why would her husband, who is set up to be a completely rational person, go along with a scheme to kidnap and murder a potentially innocent man? I get the fact that he's a loyal husband and he would do anything for her, but this seemed so outrageous, and the fact that he went along with it so easily, it just rang false to me. I felt that there had to have been a greater effort to convince him to go along with this scheme. Now, I cannot discuss what happens at the end of the film, but what happens in the climax really felt unwarranted simply because of how certain characters were established. I felt like it was just thrown in there for melodramatic purposes or for shock value. Except I wasn't shocked. I was thinking, really? Just like that? Now, there was one scene in particular that I thought they completely nailed perfectly. It was during which the man initially tries to make an escape and ends up making so much noise that he wakes up some of the neighbors. Hey, did you hear something? And Maya has to get control of the situation and tell him, oh, yeah, I heard it too. I think it came from over there. But then the next morning, the cops show up at her front door and the man is still tied up in the basement. That was an intense moment because you didn't know what was going to happen. I just wish that the feeling that that scene gave me was present throughout the entire film. Unfortunately, it wasn't. By the end, I found this to be a very predictable and very average film. So, I'm going to give it a C-. Thanks for watching my video, ladies and gentlemen. And this is just to remind you all that we are still in the middle of a pandemic. So please, keep your distance, keep your mask on, and I'll see you next time.